Hello everyone and welcome to the February vlog. Now I have to get over something rather important first, and it may come as a visual shock to you when I unblank the screen. And I don't normally talk about personal matters on my YouTube channel. I kind of like to keep personal separate from work, and then everything separate from YouTube, and then I kind of talks to each other, but I like to keep stuff separate for many reasons. The first, it sort of prevents any aggravation between them and all that sort of stuff. However, what I'm going to talk about is something that is quite noticeable, and that is that I am losing hair, to put it quite bluntly. And I don't know the source of it. It is being investigated by the doctors, so you can stop panicking if you are. At the moment, the doctor thinks it might be a iron deficiency. The blood tests came back that it was an 8.2 or an 8.4. I can't remember which, and it should be about an 11 to 12. So I'm on iron tablets. We'll see if they make a difference. And it's being reviewed in a couple of months' time. So that's really the big sort of like loss, and that also explains why I've had a haircut. And I had a haircut, I'd have said 3 to 4 Saturdays ago, to show what this off. I mean, this little patch here, that was noticeable in the previous video I did while I was here speaking to the camera. The rest of it was in effect hidden by my rather unmanaged hair, and I've also started to have a few patches come off in the beard as well. Nothing major. The hair is vastly more noticeable, but it is sort of one of those things where I will keep track of it, and it's something I generally speaking keep hidden in public as well. So partially because it's also so very cold outside, which doesn't help. So moving on from that horrible visual in front of you, the next show I'm going to go to is going to be Thirsk, and that's the Thirsk brick show. That's actually next weekend, so there's not much notice if you wanted to go and visit it, because it's now the 8th and it's now a week today, which is the 15th. So I've off Thursday and Friday next week at work. The Thursday is going to be packing and doing some last minute prep. Friday is actually travelling up to York, where I'm going to be in the National Railway Museum for a little bit in their research area. And then I'm moving up to Thirsk to help set up the layout and then bunk up for the night. So we're not going to be taking the full layout as was at Rail XNE. We had the big massive one. We're only taking the playout, as we call it. And at this point, I'd like to differentiate in the LNUR what we've got. We've got the main layout, which is all the big one which takes the major shows, and we're keeping that exclusively now for 2-day shows. We've kind of come to the decision that it is not worth the setup time and breakdown time and transport aggravation to take it to a 1-day show, which might annoy some people, and I think it might upset some organisers, but the explanation is that it's a big layout, it's a lot of preparation to set it up for 1 day, and we don't believe it's the manpower wise the best effort we can do. And the other thing as well is that a lot of 1-day shows aren't really big enough to justify the space for it anyway, from my perspective anyway. If you're going to have a 1-day show, yes, it'd be nice to have a nice big layout. Yes, it'd be nice to have some express trains running round, but the logistics of it are that it is not worth it for a 1-day show. For a 2-day show like RailX, or for some of the other shows that LNUR do, I've wholeheartedly agree that the big layout is supposed to be our best presentation, effectively, of what we can do. Not necessarily senior wise. We are, I don't want to reveal too much information. I'm not going to say anything specific, but we are going to try and focus on improving the main layout this year. Might not necessarily be completely finished. It's one of those things where we don't do anything on the whims of somebody. It's all been discussed by committee. So there's a couple of main people who are maybe steering the ship, and a couple of people putting in sort of suggestions, sort of saying, you know, I think this, and then we're discussing it and then actioning it as required. So effectively, what you're going to see is an upgrade of the current layout, and then we'll do a complete revamp at a much later date to make it a lot more suitable for what we need. I'll just go back onto the notes as well because I've knocked them off for some reason. So obviously Thirsk is next weekend. For anyone wondering where Thirsk is, it's to the north of York. So it's somewhere between York and Scotland. So it's quite a way away. In actual fact, I think my train leaves at 8:30 in the morning and doesn't get to York for, I think it's something past 10. And then about 1:30ish, depending on what the timings are, I'll be then going to Thirsk and then doing whatever. But yeah, so that's Thirsk, if you like that with. I don't know the times. I'll try and put a link in to the show in the video description so you can actually find out a bit more information, or possibly even the Facebook event. I'll make it a lot easier. Moving on now to some projects, and I'm going to be talking about LNUR stuff again. This probably will be a bit of an LNUR heavy vlog this time. Stuff for LNUR is not really my primary thing I do. You know, I am a member, hands on heart, you know, but in terms of building stuff, I'm mainly the American side and the occasional bit of British stuff. Now, the British stuff does seem to be creeping in a bit more, and I will be talking about some of that stuff here. And the British stuff is exclusively for LNUR. I'm not building it. I'm partially building it because I want to, but I'm also building it because it is my contribution to LNUR, if you like. You know, I'm not really a big builder on scenery, which I'm hoping to change. I don't really build much in the way of trains, but I can do a few bits and pieces. So I'm going in order of importance, and going back to Thirsk again. This is R56 9-volt track. This has been hand finished by me because the extra dollar it is in production, I think it is. I've saved that $1 by actually just finishing the rails myself and taking off some of the flash, and I've also, and that sort of saving also saves me costs on the import duties as well. So for the couple of hours it's taken me to finish this, I've saved OK Brickwork some time in finishing it, and it means, you know, I've had something physical to do and something away from my computer, because I do have a tendency to just sit here and not really do much. So yeah, I've done all the rails. These now will work together with 9-volt track. I've not quite tested that yet. I've done all the sanding. There might be a little bit more fettling to do, which I can just do with a file. As far as I'm concerned, the main bulk of it has been done. So these can, you know, connect together. It's not necessarily the best and easiest of connections, but you know, I can connect them together. They look okay. They'll look better once they're ballasted, I think is the main thing. But once they've been tested electrically, once I've done a final bit of fettling, and I'll start ballasting them. And then they can go off to Thirsk and be tested, and we'll see how they go. And if they do work properly at Thirsk, and we do want to go down that method, we'll be getting the final 3/4 of the circle, and then this outer loop will be going to R56 for the outer loop, so it'll look a lot better, and it'll look and trains will run better as well, possibly depending on their pickup situation. Moving on to other stuff, and this is something that actually just got teased on Instagram earlier today. You probably saw it from about that sort of angle, and it was just this bit. Well, this is the rest of it. This is what was originally a South East Coast Railway Diagram 960 PMV, or Parcels and Miscellaneous van. It's probably astute to call it that it's probably a bit more recognisable in a bright red livery with Sodor Mail on the side, because that's effectively what they used in Thomas and Friends. So this has a bit of a Thomas and Friends reference, as does something else I'm going to show you in a second. But this is something I've been working on for months. I've certainly had it in an LDD design almost complete stage for many months. And a couple of days ago, I decided to dust it off, colour swap it to this nice dark red, which it looks fantastically in. So this will work nicely as British Railways maroon for parcels vans. As you can tell, there are some bits missing, such as the windows, the grills. These are actually just double cheese slopes. This should be dark red. The seller actually only sent me, because I had an order arrive today from Bricklink. The seller was supposed to send 8, so that's enough for both sides of the vehicle, and they only sent 2, so those are the 2, and the other 6 I've had to use these green to remind me that it needs swapping. The windows, and I hate to break the spell that, you know, I use whole Lego parts. I'm going to have to get rid of 4 studs, 2 from each section of window here, so I can actually put the windows in vertically to match the outer ends. And the reason for that is that the only way to do the door rails effectively using the door rail pieces is to cut off these studs. Now, I could have gone for tiling, but the trouble is tiling itself adds a lot more complexity in how to actually build the model, and it also have a lot of issues with size as well. So this is the lazy method, if you like. I'll build it as it was designed to do anyway, and then just cut studs off. It's what Lego in the factory would do to do stuff like this. It's not the best solution, not for minifig scale, but on the whole, I'm not bothered. It's 4 studs. They're parts that I wouldn't say are very cheap, but they're nevertheless parts that can be replaced reasonably easily. And on the whole, I think that sacrifice of those 4 parts is worth it for the greater good. And those 4 parts, if I decide to need them, I can always swap them with other ones in the model and go for tiling if you wanted a much more authentic building experience. But yeah, the roof and the underframe are the main parts missing from that van. And, you know, it's something that should be complete within the next couple of months, providing I can work out the underframe and how best to detail it. Moving on, again, and I did say Thomas and Friends, I did say there'd be something else. There's another troublesome truck I've built. Now this is an open one, the previous one was a van, and through the magic of video editing you should now see what the previous van looked like. So this is pretty much based off the same sort of arrangement. There's a central hub, if you like, where you've got some SugarBricks and everything else is built out from that. And, you know, so the wheels, and I hate to do this to this truck because it's a bit more fragile than the van. Here is your wheel set held on with these 2 Technic plates with the prongs sticking up. On the underside there's a 1x4 Technic brick, and effectively all that happens is that this goes into the Technic brick, and just like that. And I'll just put this back together because it has a tendency to fall apart. There, it's on the underside needs some part swaps, and the coal load is actually removable, so you can actually sort of see the inside. So this is not complete, by the way. The underframe's missing some pieces. There's some black 2x3s missing. I've run out again. I only ordered 20 whatever it is a month ago, and I'm ran out of them already. There's a few other bits and pieces that need changing. That bit in particular, the green bit here, which is one of the brackets, that's quite noticeable. The rest of it I'm pretty au fait with. The buffers should be a dark bluish grey to match the bodywork, or certainly the outer bit should be, because buffers get dirty, oily, greasy, what have you. Sadly, I don't have any dark bluish grey, so I'll need to order a load. I probably need to order about, I dread to think, I'm probably going to order about, I don't know, because it's 4 per vehicle, I'd probably say order 12 or so, possibly 16, possibly 20, just so I've got some future reference. Dark bluish grey is always good as a detailing piece for dirt and so on, so I can do that. The one thing I might change with this one is the body side. The body sides have these 1x3 bricks, which look okay, but then you look at the ends, which are 1x1 bricks and a 1x2 brick on its side to help with rigidity, and that kind of looks like planks. So I might want to transfer that to the rest of the model, which will take some part swapping, but on the whole, you know, it's something that it looks better doing, so I might as well do it. And speaking of snot, something I did forget to mention is that this van pretty much is exclusively snot for the entire bodywork. The only bits that are normal sort of buildings, if you like, from down to up are the underframe. The siding, this side isn't, that's snotted. The windows, they're going to be regular, and the roof. The rest of it's all snotted. Either that way, that way, or that way, or that way. One of the, it's what, you know, pretty much nothing is regular on that van. Moving on to the next item, and it's a engine for a change. So I've moved away from building rolling stock to build a little tank engine. This is a 240. Now this is probably not the most realistic of locomotives. Probably would work better if the front wheel set was a bit further out. And this actually came about as a bit of a different thing, because I originally was going to build a Great Western 3600 birdcage class steam engine in maroon, believe it or not. I was actually going to do it in auto coach maroon, because some locos were originally painting that back in the 20s, I believe, or 10s. It's very earlier on in the 20th century. And I was going to build a matching converted Churchwood brake coach as a replacement for some of the Wales original auto coaches from the pre-grouping railways. Unfortunately, problems with the cab and how to hide the battery box kind of prevented me from doing it to scale. And so I kind of abandoned the project. The chassis itself was a working one. It certainly looked okay. From what I could do with running it up and down with my fingers, it would have run okay. There's clearance enough to do the sliding axles as well, which I've copied from onto this. So this kind of affected the rebuild of that. And the reason why the loco is in green is because my friend Will, who is a member of LNUR as well, has actually got two of these, one in blue and one in red. So I've built one in green, so we now got red, blue and green in locos. I've done a bit more to this. Obviously it's got the extra wheel set on it, so it's not an 040 anymore, it's a 240. With that extra wheel set comes an extra stud of tank length, so the tank's a bit longer. The front bit of the boiler, the tail end of the boiler and the smoke box is as it was on his model. And I've also gone to town a bit more on the detailing on top of the boiler as well. So you've got, for example, your safety dome here. And that's also the button for the power function. Not power function, powered up battery box. So this is a powered up model. You've got your whistle, your firebox safety plug, your safety valve, your dome. You've got another little stud here, which I've just done as is. You've got your chimney. I've also lowered the height of this model slightly, so it looks a bit more compact. The chimney itself is actually, instead of being a two long Technic connector piece, I've actually just used a one piece and then just shrunk everything down. The cab is also a lot smaller as well to get it a bit more of an industrial look. And other than that, it's pretty much complete. There's a few bits to swap. The boiler is the main one, and the underframe needs some replacement inverted slopes. Other than that, that model's complete. I think that's pretty much it in terms of current stuff on the workbench. There's probably loads more in various pieces. Some of you may recognise this. This is one of my suburban coaches. This is the dark red version, and it's a work in progress. The bogies certainly are work in progresses. They're not, don't seem long enough to me, but it's something I'll have to investigate for the future. What else is there? I'm pretty sure I'm forgetting something. Johnni D. Yes, moving on to Johnni D stuff. If you've been following my Instagram, you'll be aware that I've been building some Johnni D vehicles. Now, Johnni D does vehicles for quite a loose variety of ages, all the way from, I think it's about the 1920s through to the 1990s, I think. All designed around minifigure scale, so they're about 5 wide, which kind of suits the 1 to 45-ish scale of Lego 8 wide trains. So I've been building a few of those. So far I've built the Chevy pickup truck or tow truck, the 1930 Chevrolet Model C taxi cab, and I've also built a 1937 Ford Panel A van. The van and the taxi are actually at work at the moment as desk decoration. So actually we're taking those back this week from a little display, and then they can be shown off at Thirsk as well. The tow truck is actually behind this monitor. I've got the notes on one of my shelves next to the corner corner garage modular. Speaking of the corner garage modular, I did show this off in the comparison photos. Here is the van, and I'll be taking this apart and rebuilding it into something. Don't know what, but I will be rebuilding it at some point. And I'll be continuing to build Johnni D stuff as well into the future. There's a couple of other things I want to get, and I am redoing one of the Model Cs into the Model AC, which is a consumer version which was released in 1929. That's actually in brown, and it's actually located just behind this red Ford Model T van, which was released in the 20s. So it's a little bit before the rest of the Johnni D models, and that's actually from free instructions on Railway, which again I'll put a link in the description. It's quite an info heavy one this month. Moving on to some sort of plans for 2020. Building some more Johnni D vehicles is certainly on the agenda. They're reasonably easy to build. The hardest part to source is probably going to be the tyres, because although you can use more modern tyres, they do really look best with those old 132 tyres. And I've actually got any on. I did have a few on me with the table. I still do. And here they. Oh, it's a bit dirty. And here they are. These actually fit on the old style of wheel. I don't think I have any here. I do actually. So I'll just pop this out. So some of you may recognise this wheel element, and it's also the same one that fits inside these tyres. So if I pop the tyre on, there we have one completed wheel. Now these wheels, well the tyres I should say, have got this nice spoked pattern, which it has vehicles from that area would have had, because they were still on the sort of spoke style of wheel. The tyres actually have lines on them as well, and if you buy the white or grey version, you can actually stretch a modern tyre sort of like from the city line over them to create a nice sort of white walled tyre. The cheaper alternative, but it would be modifying them, would be to actually paint the paint onto these rubber wheels. And as these rubber wheels haven't been produced for a while, it's up to you. It's certainly an easier way and certainly a cheaper way, because white tyres are ridiculously expensive. The greys are slightly cheaper. I've actually got 8 of them. There's 4 on the red van behind me. The other 4 are, I think, on the Ford van, but certainly not on the taxi. I think actually they might be on the tow truck. That might be where they've gone, because I ran out of other tyres at the time. I have got some more on order as well, so I can do more vehicles. And again, there's a huge list of things I want to do. I want to do the Duesenberg model. I want to build a couple of the police cars. there's another car I think in the list I haven't bought yet, but want to do at least one model of. So, and there's also a 1936 DeSoto New York Airstream cab as well. I want to build one of those as well. So I've got a bit of a mix and match. So I've got the old style Chevrolet Model C taxi cab, and then the Airstream one as well. For the rest of other stuff I want to do, finish what I've currently got on is primarily the other thing. I kind of want to finish off some of my brick model railroad vehicles. Last year I was able to have a little bit of a session and finish off the gondolas. So although there were a few pieces missing on that video from saying I needed to order them, they arrived pretty quickly afterwards, and they've been fitted. And the gondolas are all actually now in a box, sort of about a metre that way on the floor, because putting them in that box was actually a way to free up some shelf space. My bedroom is kind of a bit congested at the moment in terms of build space and display space as well. So that's one of the things I wanted to do last year, was actually get some storage arranged. This year, because I bought up the wood, I just didn't have the time to build them or the space to build them. Hopefully this year that can change, and I'll actually build them up. I can actually then store some of the trains that are in here into that storage facility, which will be out in the shed down the garden, so it's away from this room. And then once they're in there, they're away from here. I'll free up some shelf space here to do other things. Yeah, you know, it's one of those cascading things. If I free up space here, it means I can do this, which means I can do that, and you know, it's just one of the things that knock on effects effectively. So certainly finishing off some brick model railroad stuff is one of the things I want to do. I've kind of started that off with one of the tank cars, which is actually in two-tone blue, so it's a medium blue and the bright light blue. That again is a model that's been partly done for a while. There's actually also using a split level walkway as well, so the tank ends are as are on the instructions pretty much in terms of the floor height, but then the upper bit has actually got a brand new style of decking arrangement, and the two-tone blue livery actually kind of helps with that. There will be a lot of parts needed to order to finish the moth, unfortunately, and I haven't decided how I'm going to do the walkways either, which is one of the big problems with the model, is because, you know, I need to find some way of doing steps, and it's not going to be easy. So what I might do is finish off the model as is, in terms of bogey detailing, and leave it like that for a while. Maybe rent a couple of shows, because I also need to start on lettering as well, which is going to be a great fun game, especially in applying it, which won't help. I think outside of that, there's another tank car I want to do, which is in dark tan, which I've got a good chunk of parts for. I've actually updated the wish list I've got for other parts I need to finish it, so some of those have arrived today actually, with the same walls to do, the PMV. So I'm going to have to do some more of that. I've also had, and I think this is the biggest one and something people will have noticed, a rearrangement. So previously there would have been 3 of these Pappy Max drawer sort of sets. So you had one column here, another column here, and another column here, and the coaches are actually up here. That's all been changed, so I've got rid of that extra line here. At the moment, it's all a mess. It needs sorting. I've sorted out most of this. So you've actually got these now in colour order. So you've got the black, your dark blues grey, your light grey, your browns, your whites, your tans, so that's light tan and dark tan, or brick yellow, I think is what yellow tan is called by Lego. Reds, greens, blues and yellows. I did originally have the intention of also adding ones for tiles here as well. Unfortunately, tiles would have eaten up too much in terms of space in these drawers, so they're actually in here now. So you've got 1x1s, 1x2s, and 1x3s, 1x4s, and 1x6, 1x8s, and 2x4 tiles, and a few other bits and pieces. I think got 2x2 and 2x3 tiles. Bit weird, I know. You got ones smallest to largest, and then twos largest to smallest. Don't worry about it. I'm just as confused as you are, but it works. I think there's another free drawer here, so I might put something in there, remains to be seen. I might just take it off and then just move this one down there so it frees up a bit more space. This space here isn't big enough to fit one in, unfortunately, so that's why there's not one there. And there's not one here because obviously you've got the support beam there to actually prop the shelf up. So I could take that out, but then the shelf would sort of go. So there's no way to do that. Other than that, really, I don't really think there's a lot that I need to discuss or talk about. So yeah, the biggest thing really is organising all these elements, and a good chunk of them are organised already. We'll certainly organise into groups. They might need some reorganisation, and I also need to eliminate this. This is actually a storage unit that is now occupied by some of these new storage arrangements, so this needs to be got rid of at some point effectively. And yeah, you know, it's just effectively rearranging what I've got, having a bit of a sort through. So that's going to be it for the February vlog. I've been kind of putting it off. It really should have been the January one, sort of tail end of January, but I decided to postpone it for a bit for various reasons. So, you know, that's it for that now. If you've got any questions, you know, feel free to drop them in the comments, and I'll see you soon. So that's it for now, and see you later. And don't forget to check out Instagram, because that's pretty much where I post everything. So that's the last bit from me, and see you soon.